And thank you so much. Sorry, I forgot to silence my phone and I didn't want to get any interruptions. So welcome in again. Like Felicia mentioned, my name is Kesley Anderson and I'm a creative educator with Michaels. So today's workshop is really talking about the make market materials. We covered those last Thursday if you joined us, or that video is up on YouTube now. But really today's workshop, we're going to talk about how to take all those different types of make market materials and apply them to the make market blanks. Now, in the make market section, like when you go into, I call it the technology section because you have all of the technology equipment, your Cricut machines, your Silhouette machines, and your Caesar machines. And then you have a great selection of different types of materials and blanks to use with those different types of machines. No matter which machine you're working with, you are able to use all of the different make market materials. So whether you have a Caesar machine, a Silhouette, or a Cricut machine, you can use your make market vinyl and your make market iron-on those cutting machines to cut out your designs. So we're going to talk about applying your cutouts to different materials. And I thought since the two main categories of make market vinyl is their permanent style vinyl and their iron-on style vinyls. So those are the two that we're going to work on today, just to kind of keep it fun and easy. If you have questions, please do drop them in the Q&A. If you're wondering, how do I work with that, or what does that mean? Drop those in the Q&A so I can help you out, dispel any myths you might have about the materials and how to work with them. Typically if I'm using make market material with my Cricut machine, I recommend using the settings that are already in your Cricut machine. So you'll have, if you're using the permanent vinyl, just use the permanent vinyl setting that is within the Cricut machine. I use everyday iron-on to iron out my materials with my make market materials on my Cricut. When I'm using my Silhouette or my Cameo machines, I like to do a test cut because their settings just might vary a little bit from the standard settings that you might want to have. So, and even in your Cricut machine, if you're using a new type of material, it's always a good idea to do that test cut. Then you know everything's going to cut smoothly. So the first type of product I thought I'd talk about are the different tumblers in the make market section. And there's really three different types of tumblers I thought we could focus on. Well, maybe four different types of tumblers. So let me just grab a couple of them here and we can sort of review and discuss. So you'll have your glass tumblers. Both of these are actually glass. You have a lot of different glass tumblers. There's iridescent, frosted, colored glass tumblers. These are great to work with because they're basically pretty smooth as you go down. You don't have to worry about angling down like you do if you're working with a wine glass or something like that. So I really like the glass can tumblers. And then you have different types of mugs. So today I have a glass mug, but you have ceramic mugs to work with. And you have some stainless steel mugs. So that's another type of material. So you have your glass, your ceramic, and then your stainless steel. The stainless steel has a white coating on it. So I just would caution, and I only say this because I have made this mistake. Sometimes if I'm trying to get something off of my stainless steel, maybe I need to take off a piece of vinyl or something got somewhere where it wasn't supposed to be. I do not recommend using your weeding tool to pick it off because you can damage the white paint on your stainless steel material. So definitely only use soft tip things on your stainless steel glasses. If you're working with a glass or ceramic, I haven't had that issue ever happen. So just keep those two things in mind. So the projects we're going to make today are wrapping a glass can with multi-layers of make market vinyl, and I have a fun little St. Patrick's Day theme to go with, and then using the color changing vinyl on a tumbler, and you'll get to see how the color changes and everything. So that's really fun. And then we'll do a layered t-shirt design so you can see how to work with your t-shirts and what different materials you need for that. So why don't we jump over to the overhead, and I've got my tumbler wrap set up to go over with you, and we can start doing that. So, yes, great question. Can you use standard vinyl on sublimation products? So the make market blanks will most likely say it's a sublimation tumbler, which means you can use this tumbler with sublimation. So it has a polyester coating that absorbs the ink from a sublimation printer. You can also use anything that says sublimation. You can also use it with your permanent vinyl, removable vinyl, and iron-on materials. So you're not limited to only sublimation products, but you can use all of the different items on these designs. So why don't we do a single layer first, just to kind of as a warm up. And I selected the color changing product to get us started with. And I wanted to show you how easy it is. Oh, sorry, I was going to grab the product that just fell on the floor. But I wanted to show you how easy it is to weed out your vinyl material. So you just take your weeding tool and have the hook pointing away from you. Dip it under a corner, and you'll just remove your part that you are not keeping to put on your glass. If it doesn't come off, like see how that little part's not coming off, just take your weeding tool and tuck it back under, and it will help pull it off like that. So then you can just walk it along. Now I have these little parts on the inside. So this little leaf right there will come off with this larger piece of vinyl because it's all attached. So we'll just kind of walk that all off, and that will come off on each one. And then we have to go back in and weed out the little designs. Now, if it gets to be too much for you to handle with this much vinyl that you're trying to remove, you can simply cut that off and then come back and carry on with your vinyl that you're working on. I don't want my vinyl to get in your all's vision. Here you go. I'm just going to walk this right off. I use my weeding tool if I need to get underneath my piece, just kind of use it to separate that. It's like a dentist pick. So we're just going to keep removing this over. There we go. It's nice. It picks up the whole piece. Okay. And then you just come back in with your weeding tool and remove all the little pieces. And those little pieces, we don't need to keep those. We can just toss those right into our weeding holder. My little mini weeding holder over here. Okay, so some of those stayed in there, and that's okay. But I'm just going to come back and I'll start removing the ears. So sometimes you can just peel back your vinyl and take that off. The color changing vinyl is a bit thicker than your other, the permanent vinyl. So it is nice that I can just kind of tilt it up and peel my pieces off that I don't need. Or you can just use your weeding tool and just tuck your weeding tool underneath a piece of it, and then you can just take that rest of it off, which I think with this vinyl, it is easiest just to use my fingernails to remove that off of there. So many little pieces. I forgot about all the little pieces on this. All right. So on the color changing vinyl, the package will tell you what color it goes from. So this one's going to start off this yummy green color and then transfer over to a yellow color, which is really cute. I was playing with this to make sure all the colors worked and everything so we could see it in action, and it really looks fun. Now, I did cut this image from a design with my Cricut machine. So if you happen to use Design Space, Cricut's Design Space, you can look me up. I'm Coach Kesley, I think, on there. And I have this project saved under my profile. If for some reason it's not showing up yet, just give it a little bit of time, 24 hours, and it will show up. I don't know if I put instructions or even if I shared this out. Sometimes you have to share out a project from Design Space. All right. So how many of you have been working on projects already? Like, are you comfortable using vinyl? Have you just done single layers, maybe a great place to start is labeling containers around your home, like your kitchen containers or bathroom storage containers. Great way to start using your vinyl. And have you branched out to using different types of vinyl, like the pattern vinyl or the layering vinyl, like we're going to do on our next cup? We'll do those layers. I really forgot all these little pieces in here. So on the tumblers and mugs, I usually use permanent vinyl. I don't use the heat transfer vinyl on my tumblers and mugs. Typically, I save my heat transfer vinyl for my soft items. So my general rule of thumb, if it's a hard item, I'll use permanent vinyl. And if it's a soft item, I will use the iron-on material. So that's kind of my general rule of thumb. Not to say that you can't use permanent vinyl on a t-shirt or a pillow or something like that. If you wanted it to be just temporary, you absolutely could do that. But my general rule of thumb, if it's a hard blank, I use permanent vinyl. And if it's a soft blank, I use iron-on material. Now, if you are using coasters, you could do iron-on material or the permanent material. And I think I personally prefer to use the permanent material on a coaster than the iron-on. But also you could then use the sublimation or infusible ink transfer sheets will also work. So the tricky part of working with vinyl is getting it on your cup or your tumbler straight. So this is taking me longer than I thought it would, guys. I'm sorry. I would have had this already weeded out. I have our other projects already weeded out, so you'll get to see the application. But typically, the tricky part of working with vinyl is really just getting it on your blank lined up properly. And that's where your transfer paper really comes in handy because it has the grids on it. So your transfer paper makes it super easy to apply your design right onto your blank using the grid system. Okay, let's get those put in there. All these little pieces hanging around. Okay, so let me grab my transfer tape and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm just going to apply my transfer tape over my bunnies. And I can see, I can just fold my transfer tape in half if I want to find the middle of my transfer tape, or I can just start at a corner. And what I like to do is sort of fold back my carrier sheet a bit, like maybe an inch back if I have extra room. And I'll create what I call a hinge. So I'll put this on my workspace and adhere it down like this. Then when I put my design down underneath, I can make sure that it's lined up on the lines of the transfer sheet. So I'll line it up on the side there and then also line it across the bottom. Once I have it lined up where I want it to go, I'll just start using that little hinge door there and pulling that back and using my squeegee to push my transfer material down over my vinyl design. Once I have it on my design, you want to just go ahead and use your squeegee like this and just make sure your vinyl is adhering to that transfer sheet. Then we'll flip over our transfer sheet and we can remove the design from the carrier sheet here. Our vinyl carrier sheet just peels right off. You see how smoothly that comes off? Now, when you have your cut settings correct, it really does come off that smoothly. So if it's coming off like things are still holding together, that just indicates that your cut settings weren't the best for that material. So you might want to go back next time and do a test cut and see what the right cut settings would be. So we're going to get our glass prepped here, and I'm just going to take my lint-free cloth and some rubbing alcohol, and I'll rub that on my cup to make sure my mug here is nice and clean. And you'll do this on any of the different materials that you're using, whether it be ceramic, stainless steel, or glass like we're using here. And then I can either take my design and find the middle of my mug and wrap it around, which is usually what I like to do. So let's just take our design, we're going to hold that up like that. And oops, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that on this. I have too much on the bottom. All right, so we're going to start off on one side. Now, as you can see, my transfer tape does have grids on it. Let's see if I put that underneath. If you can see those really gray lines are the grid lines. So this middle line here is a great grid line that I can use on my design and line everything up. So let's see. I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to do this for me. So we're just going to line that right up. I usually will get right, oops, I'll usually get right over it and have my head in the way. So as I'm putting it down, it goes down smoothly and I make sure I'm in the middle. With this handle here, it does give it a little bit more of a challenge to put it on. So if you had a handle like this on your design, you might want to use something that you can, it doesn't go right in the middle. I'm squeaking along here. We're just lining up along the bottom there with our design. Just gonna line that right along the bottom. Once you have it lined up how you want it, go ahead and press your pieces down using your finger along your vinyl to make sure everything stays in place. Now, if you have some air bubbles or anything like that that you can feel, this is a pretty big design, so I'll be able to come back and adjust those as I want. Like I can tell right there with that bunny, I've got a little bit of an air bubble there. So I'm just going to peel back my transfer tape, hold down my design, because remember this color changing vinyl is a little bit thicker than your regular vinyl. So you just have to make sure you get that down. So as I'm going with these individual pieces, I want to make sure that any air bubbles that are on there come out. Now, usually with my permanent vinyl on a glass like this, I want to let it set for about 24 hours before using it so that that vinyl really has a chance to adhere to the glass. So those two are cute. They're down very nicely. I'm just going to come over to this side and start removing this one. Let's go the reverse. And I'll do it a little bit differently on a round tumbler when I don't have a handle. So we'll work from the middle to the sides on that. We're just going to put that right down. All right. And there we have it. Now, Felicia, if you'll flip back to the front facing camera, I do have my hot water ready to go. And I'll show you how this changes color. And again, if you have anything that like didn't stick down, you can come on and fix it. If you need to, you can always loosen it up a little bit. I find the Make Market vinyl a little bit forgiving at first. So if you need to work out an air bubble, just very loosely use your weeding tool, get under that vinyl and work your bubble out. See how easy that is? All right, now if we'll go to if you can flip over to the front facing camera, maybe I can do it here. Oh, there you go. Okay, so I do have some hot water ready to go. And I want to show you guys, let's put this up here so everyone can see it. We've got all of our little bunnies around here. And I'm just going to add some boiling water to the green bunnies so you can see how this color changes. And it takes just a second. Okay, you can start to see they're changing colors and they're going from green to yellow, starting at the ears and working their way down. And then as you drink your coffee or whatever you have in here, where you have the cooler temperatures will start to cool off as you drink your coffee down. So then it'll reverse the color change. And so at the top here, instead of being yellow first, it'll start getting green as you go down. Isn't that, I think that color changing vinyl is so fun to use. And we'll just let that set over there for a few minutes while it works its way, while it works its magic. And then we'll come back over to the overhead for our next layered project. Now, the next layered project, we're going to be working with one of the Make Market tumblers here. Thinking if I have one without a glass. Okay, I'll take off we'll start by taking off the We'll start by taking off our protective label here that tells you what it is. And again, even though this says sublimation, you can absolutely use your vinyl with it. So I have 3 different colors here of Make Market vinyl where I've cut out a design, and I'm going to show you how you can put it together to make it into a single layer. Now, I do prefer to do my single layers as blanks when they're on the flat surface, so it works a little bit easier versus trying to do it each color on your tumbler. Let's go ahead and I'll wash off my tumbler here before I start showing you how I layer my colors. All right. Now, at this point, if you have a light box, you might want to use it to line up your colors for your vinyl so you can see how everything's going to line up. We're going to set that aside and let that heat up. Or not heat up, let that dry off if there's any moisture left. I have a piece of parchment paper I'm going to use for my layering, and I'll need my weeding tool. So I've already done the weeding on the yellow and the orange rainbows, and I just need to weed out this green. I chose my green to be my weeding color today. So we'll just start here on the corner again and pull that back, and you'll see as you walk back how easily it weeds. Now again, if your vinyl or iron-on material does not weed this easily, it doesn't just like come off the sheet like butter here, then double check your settings because you may not have cut it deep enough to get the settings, to get this smooth, easy off. You don't want to cut it too much so that you cut through the carrier sheet. Basically, what you're doing is creating what I call a kiss cut. So you're just cutting the material, the vinyl material. You're not cutting the whole sheet. So now we have these 3 different layers that we need to line up onto the single transfer sheet so we can transfer that over. So again, I can reuse my transfer sheet. So we're just going to start off with that transfer sheet again. I'll put it on my workspace, and I'm going to just put down and create that like 1-inch hinge right there. So these colors are designed so that they lay into each other, they nest. So we'll start with the center of our design first, and that's the green, the little clovers on the inside. So pushing the edge of my design up to that 1-inch mark on my transfer sheet and making sure I have a nice straight line here. And then as I put my transfer sheet down, I want to make sure that I'm maintaining my straight line on my transfer sheet as well. Okay, so that's my hinge method. I use it all the time on so many different projects. The hinge is key. It really makes a difference. I have a little bit of a bubble here, so I'm just going to open that back up and push it down. Okay, so again, we're just going to squeegee this off. And my first step will be to remove my carrier sheet here again. Now, once you've removed the vinyl from your carrier sheet, you don't need to keep your carrier sheet. You can remove your carrier sheet. I know it seems a little bit wasteful, and I guess it just depends on how many designs you're making. If you wanted to add some little designs on the inside here, you could certainly do that. But I find for myself and my ease of making things that I personally prefer to just keep it simple and not stress my life out, instead of cutting out each individual one and not trying to keep them in a row. So now I've put it on parchment paper, and the parchment paper is going to help me attach my different layers. The parchment paper is a game changer. If you've been trying to layer vinyl and you haven't been using parchment paper, you go to your kitchen drawer, grab your parchment paper, and I'm telling you, it is such a game changer. You'll love it. You'll thank me later. Okay, so I'm just going to trim that off, and I'm just going to trim down my transfer tape here a little bit so I don't have to worry so much about that. Okay, so now we're ready for our next layer of the inside of our rainbow here, which is the yellow. Now, my colors didn't all start right on the edge. So you can take, I've got this little 1/2 inch here, and I can line my design up onto the yellow. I want to make sure if it's got like a little opening here, that my green goes right into that centerpiece where it needs to go. And it looks pretty good. Just double check. That looks a little off over here. So let's just focus here real quick. Okay, that looks really good right there. So I've got that lined up. Okay, that looks good there. That little shamrock's lined up and that shamrock's lined up. Once I have it positioned where I want it to be, you can take some painter's tape if you want, just to stabilize things a bit, and put your painter's tape on your blank the vinyl that we're removing. Hinge back, and we want to remove our parchment paper. We're going to use that again, so keep that handy. And then let's double check our placement as we come down. So that looks really good. I've got nice flow there, nice flow there. I'm liking it. Everything looks great. And there we go. Now we're going to just squeegee it again and flip it over. Do the weeding step one more time, and then we've got one more layer to go, and we're ready. We're all done. Doesn't that make it look so easy? You know, you see these tumblers and you're like, but how do they get everything to line up so perfectly? If you have something that doesn't want to come off, give that little part of the transfer sheet a fold and pull back. So that'll help everything come right off. Also, if you have a little bit of transfer sheet exposed on the end, just roll or hold up your carrier sheet backing so that it doesn't stick. That has happened to me numerous times in my career of crafting, so just be aware of that. You get the hang of it over time. I do think that removing the backing from your design, it does take just a little bit of practice and time. So if your first attempt doesn't go as smoothly as I make it look, don't fret. It does go easier. Okay, so now again, we're just going to use that parchment paper in between the layers. I'm going to push that down, make sure everything looks good. I've got good connection there. Everything looks good. Grab my painter's tape so nothing slips on me. And we just remove that right off. Okey-doke. Everything's lining up. Oh, beautiful. Look how cute. I love it. Okay, then we have one more transfer removal of the vinyl. Here we go. And again, this one is also this design here that I'm working on. Actually, all three of the designs I'm doing today were cut on my Cricut machine using Cricut Design Space. So just keep that in mind. If you're looking to make this cutie. Stick down. See, I've got that little piece of transfer on the edge, and it wants to grab onto my carrier sheet here that I'm removing. I don't want that to happen. Pull that right off. All right, so that looks great. Now you can take your parchment paper, and I kind of like to give myself a trim in the middle of my parchment paper to make it easy to put it on my glass. So we're just gonna boop, 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 trim this up. Put this on our design here so that I can put my design on my tumbler. Okay, so I've got my cup holder. I just place my design on there. And what we're going to do is we're going to place our design on the tumbler and then make sure it matches up in the back. So because you don't have a middle part of your tumbler, you don't necessarily have to worry about like, oh, am I in the middle? Am I in the right spot? But that matches up nicely. There's a little bit of overlap there, but that's okay. That's gonna help us in the end. So we'll take one side of our design and get it lined up onto our tumbler. I'm getting a little bit off here. Okay, because I cut it. Let me just see. Okay, so we'll just take one little side here. I'm going to line that up on our tumbler. Okay, I'll use my painter's tape and just hold that in place. And then as I wrap it around, I'm going to make sure I keep everything positioned onto my tumbler so that it's all lined up in the right spots. Nothing's crooked or goes at an angle. And I come back right around and you see I match up right there. So what I'm going to do then is go back to the halfway point and I'm going to add another little extra hand to my project here. So we'll just go back here, pop that on there, pop that on there like that. And then you just remove that half of your sheet and we just walk this over from the middle. And I'm pulling on it just a little bit to make sure that it sets down nice and smooth. When I get to where it's going to overlap here, I'm going to open this up and push this down here. So my design isn't overlapping, just my carrier sheet will be overlapping. And then we're going to come on back and do this. Again, you just remove that parchment paper and we walk our design, give it like a nice little pull as you're going so you make sure everything lines up. And where it overlaps again, just pull that up and over. And this technique will work with all of the different tumblers. So no matter what type of tumbler you're working on, you're going to be, you'll do the same type of technique, just working your design around your glass. And then remove your piece just like this. Oops. Gotta keep everything on there. Normally I would go back over with my squeegee and make sure everything was really in place and lined up properly and where I wanted it to go. Oops. And then you just take that off. All right, and Felicia, if we want to flip it back over to the front, I can show everybody the front of it all finished and together. I think I can show everybody it. There we go. I do want to be careful so I don't tear any of my vinyl or anything as it's coming off my design. But there we go. So that is your finished design. Everything matched up, lined up perfectly how I wanted it to go. All right. And then any type of, like I was mentioning, if you wanted to, you could use like the gift tags, or I guess these are ornaments, but I used vinyl on these during the holidays to make little gift tags. So you could do that on the blanks. If you didn't have sublimation, you can certainly do that. You can do this on any type of wood. You can paint them and then add your vinyl. You would do the same technique if you were making like a welcome sign or anything like that. It would all design up together using your transfer tape and peeling off that transfer tape and using your design on the blank, just like we did for the glassware. It's just, you have the benefit of it not being round. And then, you know, you have like a ton of coasters that you can do and design with designs of your vinyl. Okay, so now let's talk about our heat transfer vinyl. I have two colors of pink and a glitter. Now I've done most of the weeding on these, but I wanted to show you how the garment weeds, your vinyl weeds a little bit differently when you're working with heat transfer vinyl. Give me just a minute. I'm going to just push these things aside that we used for our tumbler because we don't need all these tools. So we'll just kind of push some of those aside. And I need to bring over my heat press. So I've got my heat press and my pressing pad, which you'll want to have. And then we have 3 different layers of vinyl to press. Now, when you're looking at your iron-on material, you can look at the material box to get your settings. So on your glitter and your Make Market heat transfer vinyl, it says 290 degrees for 15 to 30 seconds. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn on my heat press and adjust my settings to 290 degrees for 30 seconds so that when I'm ready, my heat press will already be ready to go. There are so many cute little things that you can find with the Make Market blanks. There's adorable little dog tags that you can make, like little dog scarves to do. You have so many options. It's really just fun. That whole aisle, totes and bags. I hope we'll have time. I can share some of the projects that I've done using like the wine totes and gift bags. If you sew, you can sew in your own labels, like use iron-on to put a label in your garment, or you can, make a bag at the holidays, make a bag and then add a design onto it. So on your vinyls and such, I use so on a coaster, your permanent vinyl is really going to last a long time for you. So like I have used permanent vinyl and put my design on like a tumbler, and I think my tumbler is probably 8 to 10 years old now, and it's still I hand wash it, but that vinyl is still there. So the sublimation does absorb into your blank and it becomes one with the blank. So your vinyl though will sit on top of the blank. So like my glass here, if I run my hand over this rubbing alcohol label, permanent vinyl, it's going to stay there until, I lose my little squirt bottle there. But you can feel it. Whereas if you do it with sublimation, the sublimation really goes into the blank. Now, as you can see, as I'm weeding out this heat transfer material, I just want to point out a little bit. It's a little bit harder to do, like I'm really giving it a good tug. It's not hard to do, but it holds on a little bit more. And that's because the material, the carrier sheet that your iron-on material on has like a stick to it because it's holding your iron-on material onto that carrier sheet. So your iron-on material, when you cut it, you always want to mirror your design. And you basically cut what you think might be the back side. So like this is white, but my actual material is this pink color. So you actually cut on the back side of your material. And you want to be able to cut all the way through, but keep it on the carrier sheet. So again, you want to get that kiss cut result and not cut all the way through. Let's just get this centerpiece out. So when you're weeding it, it does weed a little bit differently in that it's like it wants to hold on to that carrier sheet sometimes a little bit more than you'd like it to. So let me just get this off. I think the thing is this is designed to go up into the flowers a little bit. Yep. All right. So we're just going to carefully walk this around. And as you can see, I have like little pieces that kind of go up into the petals there. So we just want to remove those off as we go. And it's the same concept as your vinyl. You just want to get up in there and then like use your weeding tool to guide the vinyl off of the carrier sheet. So I'm just kind of using that weeding tool to get underneath the vinyl and then pull it up so that I can remove it from my carrier sheet. Like that. Looking good. This is so cute. I love all these colors. Now, usually I like to do my glitter vinyl last. It's like a little bit raised. So if I were to do it all together, it might not, your glitter vinyl might not, your other vinyl might not adhere if I did my glitter vinyl first because it's just a little bit raised. So I save my specialty vinyls for the end, and I'll use my regular everyday type of iron-on material at the start. So to find the center of my shirt, I'm just going to fold my shirt in half and then line up my shoulder seams and my side seams. You'll press your shirt for 5 seconds before actually making the design. And you just do 5 seconds to remove any moisture out of your shirt. So here we go here. We'll just pull this over. I'm going to move those out of my way. Grab my template here. And what I'll do for this shirt is I'll start on the middle design layer and then work my way out. So I'll do the light pink flower and then do the dark pink outer part of it and then the center. But before, we're just going to do this 5 seconds on each side. This will give a nice crease on your shirt to help with placement. And my shirt is an extra small shirt, so I will probably use the youth shirt placement ruler. Let's grab that. Let's use back. Toddler front. I got you have so many good choices here. Let's find our toddler back, adult front. I need the toddler front. Toddler front. Here it is. Yeah, no, I want the youth front. V-neck youth front. There it is. Okay. So with an extra small shirt, I'm going to use the youth front to get my sizing. And now that I have a little seam there, you'll just put your marker to your ruler to decide your placement. I'll layer all of my pieces together and determine that I'm going to do the pink flower first, then do this outer edge, and then do the little center on the inside. So with all of these together, they're held together by the dry adhesive, the little adhesive on the iron-on carrier sheet. And I'm just going to take my top layer here and find the center by lining up the edges and doing a little dimple onto my carrier sheet so I can see where the center of my design is. And then we'll line that back up. Your flower doesn't have to necessarily, you don't have to worry about the up and down of the flower. It's pretty geometric. Okay, so once I have that, I'm going to use my design and go about 2 fingers down from the collar to put the top of my design onto my shirt. I'll use my crease here and line up the center bottom and the center top right there. If my design went across, I would of course use the ruler here as my guide to make sure everything was straight, but I have both of these parts lined up, so I'm good to go. So this is going to be my first layer, this light pink flower, very pretty. And I'm just going to do a little bit, like 10 seconds on here to get it set, and then I'll remove it. Now, I do need to let it cool just a little bit before removing it. You don't want to remove it while it's hot. But let me show you, while that's cooling off a little bit, the wine totes. If you've ever wondered about like what you can do with these are some that I made obviously for New Year's. This is just using black iron-on vinyl, really simple to do. I mixed and matched infusible ink with a little glitter vinyl on that one, and then a real just big Merry Christmas. So, and I also use these, believe it or not, these are great. The wine totes are great in a beach bag, and to put your tall sunscreens in the beach bag. So then you're just going to want to hopefully walk this right off. Now, you notice when I started here, it kind of came up a little bit. So I just kind of walked around until I found a side where it was relatively well adhering down. Because again, we didn't do the full permanent amount of heat. So I do anticipate that in some places on the design, it may not stick down completely. And that's okay, because we're just going to work our way around the design and find the places where it is sticking down and remove it off there. I'm going to give it a little bit. Okay. So we're going to, maybe I'm not being patient enough or too impatient with it. So sometimes you just gotta let it roll off there, or if it's really, I can't get it to come off and everything's sticking back down, I'm just gonna give it a little bit of an extra press for like 10 seconds there, and we'll make sure it sticks down this time. And I'm just holding my press down. I'm not moving it around. So if you're using a home iron, which is perfectly okay, you would just use your home iron and give it a nice press with your home iron. Don't move it around. We're just gonna use my glass here to help kind of cool it off a little bit. And then hopefully nope, it does not want to come off for me. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna leave that there, and I'm gonna take my scissors and trim off the excess iron-on material here. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm just gonna go ahead and put my hot pink color on, because I'll just set it in there for a little bit longer and do the full 30 seconds on that. Maybe that'll help it out. That might get it to behave for me, but I don't wanna get it stuck on the inside. If I put this over it and I still had some of that plastic sheet, the iron-on material would end up adhering to the plastic sheet, which we do not want to do. We want it to be able to go smooth onto the t-shirt. That seems like it's come off there. Nope. All right, so we're gonna do it a little bit differently. This is where you have to pivot sometimes, and that's okay. So we're gonna come back here with our lineup, and I'm gonna line that right back up on the center of my shirt. And I just want to make sure that that plastic is not coming through. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do this one. Again, that 10 to 15 seconds, that first press. Fingers crossed, everything works. If you do make a mistake on your iron-on material, one thing you can always do is heat it back up, and that helps to peel it off. So like if I needed to, I could just heat this up a second time, and sometimes you can use your weeding tool and peel the design off. Let's just kind of give it a cool here. I'm only doing this to speed things up so we have time to show everything. So if that were to happen, like if I were to have a lot of trouble getting it off and I needed to remove those top petals that weren't coming off with my design, what I would do I would cut it off. I would heat it up, peel these off, recut it, and then reapply it on the shirt. So that does definitely happen sometimes. So again, I didn't do the full press. Maybe I should have on this one. Here we go. We're coming off now. These are looking good. So I'm just gonna hold my hand as I go around, making sure everything wants to come off the right way. If I get a little bit of resistance from one direction, I just change back my direction and start in another spot. All right, that looks great. Now, if there's anything that's not, like I can see my little C's not perfectly down there, and that's okay, because I will be able to come back and just touch that up on my last press when I do this little center gold piece. So I'm just putting my hand there, keeping everything in place as I remove my carrier sheet. So that one just needed a little extra time, don't we all? And then my little centerpiece. Now you'll notice with this part here, everything else had the carrier sheet on it. When I press this one in, it doesn't have a carrier sheet that will cover the rest of the design. So you want to put a piece of butcher paper or put back over your large transfer sheet on top of it so your iron doesn't go directly onto your design. So I don't have a piece of butcher paper handy or a cloth. Actually, you know what? Let's see. I can use this. I can use one of my lint-free cloths. So I've got my gold circle down in the middle. and I'll put that right on top of it, and we'll go ahead and press that here. There is so now I'm going to do 290 degrees for 30 seconds. This is a great question. Can you use parchment paper? I believe parchment paper has some sort of coating on it, which makes it great for your vinyl. But when you heat it up, that coating can emit a gas. So it's recommended to use butcher paper or like a little silicone sleeve in between your heating pad and your heater. The reason you're doing that really is so that you also don't want your anything, like if this part wasn't covered, it would go onto the bottom of my iron. So you don't want that to happen. And I am using the Cricut, let me just pull this over, the Cricut Easy Press. This is Bluetooth compatible. So you can have it set your temperature using Bluetooth, which is kind of fun. Okay, and then we're just going to peel that off. It's cool now, so we can just peel that right off. And there is our layered textured t-shirt ready for spring. Then I also wanted to pull out just real quick some other ideas to share with you all. The patches, while they do say for sublimation, the patches are so fun to use for jackets or like a little denim jacket. The patches are really fun to use. Also think about the Make Market sublimation air fresheners. You can do a really cute design with your iron-on material on here and then put a little essential oil in it and hang it in the car. That's always very fun. You'll also find some other fun Make Market blanks like the tote bags. You would do the same technique we did for the t-shirt with the tote bags. And then these little zipper pouches, let's see, the zipper pouches. Oh, how much fun you can have with these. This used the foil material with a name. And then this one, I actually scanned in my signature and made this bag for my daughter, but then I loved it so much, I kept it for myself just to show around. Again, that glitter is a really fun texture to use on your bags. So you don't have to use sublimation on those. You can use your iron-on material, and then like on your totes, sorry, this one's a little wrinkled. This is a favorite bag where the vinyl, instead of being layered where it doesn't touch, you can layer vinyl on top of each other. Your heat transfer vinyl can layer on top of each other. And I usually recommend no more than 3, 4. I always feel like I'm pushing it when I layer 4 colors, because if you put too much heat on your vinyl, it will dimple. And once you've done that, there's no going back. It's just the look of the garment you've made or the bag you've made. So when you're layering one color on top of another, I always recommend, maybe 3, 4 tops colors. This is a really fun look though. I love doing an overlay or the offset on a design. And instead of having to kind of rematch my color inside an offset design, layering it one on top of the other was super easy. And as we're heading into March, I just wanted to share one more little tote bag. This is just a really fun little design that you can make. All right, so that is everything. That was everything I had to show you today to teach you how to use your permanent vinyls, layer your permanent vinyls, use your iron-on materials and layer your iron-on materials. I hope this was in combination with our Make Market Blank class. You've got lots of great ideas and things to help you move your projects forward. Always reach out if you have questions. Michael's YouTube channel has so many different videos that will keep you crafting and keep you inspired. So thanks everybody. Have an absolutely fabulous week.